Okay, does God speak to believers? I'm doing videos, I'm saying God said this, God said that. To be honest, even as someone who believes he speaks, he's not, I wouldn't say he spoke that much to me at all. But I do obviously believe he speaks. But I can be deeply troubled about this kind of thing for myself, thinking, am I being a false prophet? Am I doing the wrong, that kind of thing? I've had all that. And when you put yourself in a public forum to say things, you kind of sometimes, or you ought to be sometimes thinking, I believe God's told me this. But then, you get some backlash now and then, and you think, yeah, but it just put me on one side of the fence. I just want to do the right thing and hope I'm on the right side. But all I can do is apply certain logic. I mean, my reading of the scriptures is that obviously is that I'm not a cessationist. I believe gifts carried on. I believe the Holy Spirit can move in power in many ways, and I believe that God does speak. I just believe that the flesh is weak and it can get in to a lot of things. And I know I see people, and I like them when they're sincere, but I can tell the flesh is getting into what they're saying. I can tell that they're using information they already have, and they're making a story. I've seen it, and so I've seen people. Oh yes, God's telling me. I think God's telling me. I know it's dangerous, but I do yet and believe that God speaks. And also, of course, you get we know that in the last days there'll be false prophets, and I think that there is. I hadn't really thought about it that much, but there is a glut of prophecy out there, and they can't all be right, because, to be honest, on a lot of things they're split down the middle about what they actually believe about certain things, making statements. I mean, obviously, like the Antichrist and stuff like that. Oh, it's him. God's told me, and they go, no. They've told me it's him. I think, well, you can't both be right. The thing is that I can see that they're sincere. You can see. I'm not talking about like the flashy ones that are a bit razzle dazzle. I mean people that seem to be out on a limb, kind of doing it out of a sincere heart. But God's telling you this, and I think, well, you can't both be hearing from God. So it's worrying. But as far as God, does God actually speak? I know that there's people that make ministries out of disproving these things, disproving healings, disproving God speaks, and they can be sincere, passionate people that make a tidy living out of it as well. That's a hard thing as well. Once you get on board with something and you get endorsed by financial gain, it's even harder to really take stock that you might be in the wrong. That's another thing. But you see, with me, you have to use some logic. In the Bible, Jesus said, if Satan be divided against Satan, how shall his kingdom stand? He's basically saying that if someone's got a demon and the devil gets rid of the demon, so the person doesn't have a demon, Jesus is saying that just is not, that is not what the devil's going to do. He wants to keep hold what he's got. He wants that's his possession. He's not being doubly sort of clever and sneaky by throwing himself out of somebody. It doesn't. It just that wouldn't work. All he's doing is he's losing. And so what I'm trying to say is that, when I got saved, I didn't know, and I would never have known that there was Christianity, and born again stuff and all. I didn't know anything about it. I knew the Bible and everything. I knew it roughly from growing up with a fairly old style, slightly classical education. I kind of understood a bit about the Bible, but I didn't know about being born again, and that that Christians really believed that there was a heaven and a hell or any of that stuff. There was no advantage for the devil to bring me into that sphere at all. All he had to do was just keep me well away from it, and I wouldn't be making these videos and praising God and doing everything I'm doing, being a Christian. And so you got to kind of think it wasn't in his interest to do signs and wonders, so to speak, and get me into Christianity, the Christian world. Now, when I had my sort of conversion and the actual time it was happening and everything like that, I felt I was in the presence of God. There was no words spoken or anything like that. Something was going on. I was being convicted of my sins and everything. But I heard these words like a kind of soundless knowing of words. I suppose we'd call the still small voice. I heard words that said, "Christ comes as a king clothed in glory. How shall he lead you that you are not clothed in righteousness?" And I at that, when I heard that, had absolutely no idea what that meant. So I've heard a voice, I'm just thinking, people say that God doesn't speak. I've heard somebody speak in this conversion moment at the beginning. Now, I definitely heard a voice. I mean, if you're actually saying to me, "Oh no, people like me are making it up," well, that's nobody can prove that. You just got to leave it at that. But I'm telling you, I did hear a voice, I did hear a voice that said that. And what it said, "Christ comes as a king clothed in glory, how shall he lead you that you're not clothed in righteousness?" I had no idea what that meant. In fact, it was confusing to me, because at the time all this conversion thing was happening and I was feeling all euphoric and convicted and everything at the same time, it sounded to me like something wasn't right or something. It was basically, how can I lead you if you're not done this thing? But if you're a Christian, you know that what was being said there was biblical. It was saying that basically Christ is to be your king. If Christ is to be your king, essentially, you need to be clothed in righteousness. To follow him, to be led by him. You need to be justified. You need to be, and so I am. That phrase made me look in the computer, see what repentance was, because I just made a connection for some reason, and say I'd repented of my old life, and I said, I follow you. You're my Lord. You're my Saviour. I want it all your way. That's what it got me to do. So I made a full commitment to be a Christian because I heard those words. So if I did hear them, and you're saying God doesn't speak, then either in some strange aberration of the human psyche, I threw something up, or the evil one put those words. So then you'd have to say it's in his interest to create a kind of convert like me. And I mean, I am considered intense, I think is the words that I've heard said about me. I read the Bible. Oh, I must have read it. I had an old King James when I got saved. I must have read it in the first, I don't know, I might be exaggerating, 3 months or something like that. You know, I was obsessed. I had the fear of God all over me. I was obsessed with judgment, hell, salvation. I mean, if the devil was trying to make a kind of false convert to do damage to the church, well, he was maybe doing damage to the lukewarm church. But but I mean, it's still kind of trying to work out, you know, God doesn't speak to you. Well, whoever spoke to me made a very God-fearing, on fire type Christian. And that was 8 years ago, and I haven't changed. I mean, I've maybe mellowed in some ways, but you know. And the second thing I want to say is that, you know, on another occasion, I had been given words. I had been, you know, I'd been a Christian for a couple of years. I'd been getting, you know, words for people, writing them down, which would be something that a lot of people would say, oh, that doesn't happen. You know, you don't get God doesn't speak to people, or you don't do prophecy and things like that. And I'd get these words, and I'd get these words for the church and different things, and I'd be kind of like worried that I was maybe doing something wrong, but I just kept doing them, and I kept thinking, because I kept doing them because I was kind of like, you know, we were encouraged to find what our gifts were and stuff like that in the church, and I kind of thought, well, this is the only thing that seems to be coming to me. To be honest, I was just earnestly wanting to try and not be like one of the guys that wait, you know, the talents, you know, that doesn't use his talents. So that's the only thing I seem to have. And at some point I was in my house and I had an encounter with that same presence that came when I got saved, and I was sort of on the floor and I was crying, and I had this tremendous feeling of apprehension and fear, which I think is basically, it's the holiness of the presence, as it would come like that. And I was holding, all of a sudden I was holding feet. I had feet in my hand. I could feel feet. And I just was thinking, Jesus has come to tell me off for writing prophecies. It was like I kind of felt like I just was in my mind naively. I was thinking he's gonna come to thrash me, you know, like don't give these words. They're not for me, sort of thing. They're not for me. These aren't my words and that thing. That's what I was thinking, you see. And so I'm kind of like, you know, thinking, oh, well, you know, oh, he's gonna, because my kind of way of understanding what he was like was pretty. It was all about the fear of God and the awesomeness and the sort of, you know, this guy can throw people into hell. That's the really way I saw him. He can throw people into hell. That's the main thing. I thought he you know, this is a serious person. And I waited for him to say something, and it completely shocked me what I heard. It was totally not expected. He went, "Will you suffer for me?" And I was like, what? I was trying to figure out. I was thinking, I immediately thought about the worst, and I'm thinking, what is he asking me? And I thought, I can't. I just kind of knew that there was no plan B here. There was no alternative. It's like, you've been waiting for me, and you know, for your time to come up, and I'm coming now to sort of the assignments here. It was like, this is it. This is your offer. There isn't another offer on the table. This is the way it was kind of coming to me. And I thought, I can't say no. And I mean, I'm not brave. And I kind of went, And I suddenly, out of nowhere, I don't know, I just kind of, and I kind of like suddenly went, like almost like a bargain. I said, save my family. This is all in my head. I went, save my family. And he went, will you suffer for me? And I went, save my family. And he went, will you suffer for me? And I went, I don't. And my mind thought, I've got to do this. This is it. All my life's been lining up. This is all been, everything's been coming to this point. This is what, it was just all coming on top. And in my head I went, I'll suffer for you. Like, agreed. And he went, say it with your mouth. And then when I said, and then I went, I'll suffer for you. Whoa, man, it was like my emotion, I was flooding. I'll suffer for you. Like I was just crying, gushing. And I just felt the presence go, and just kind of go. Now, if you're trying to tell me that I wasn't God, and that God wouldn't say something like that, the thing is that what that done to me, and what the way that jumped my understanding, and so much came out of that. I mean, I didn't hear him again for, that was at 2 years into my salvation. Then I had nothing at all for a year, and I couldn't have bore with that silence and that dryness if I hadn't. I kept thinking, he's asked me to suffer for him. It wasn't so much that I was feeling like I was suffering, because I thought, when he said suffer, I thought, the worst. I didn't think of like just not hearing from God for a while. I thought something terrible. But the fact is that he seemed to leave. He seemed to ask me something, implying, I've got something you're going to do in the future. And I kind of felt, because he went quiet on me, that he can't have changed his mind. Whatever I'm doing, if I'm doing something wrong, he can't have. From that, that was something he knew that he's gonna hold me to that. So that got me through that. But it also done things for me, that because I'd heard him, I became stronger and stronger in my faith, because I just, without having that sense of his presence at all or anything, just feeling like an unsaved person again, really. I just carried on, like, and I suddenly at some point kind of, and within about a year at that time, just kind of like figured out, I thought, he's just been wanting to teach me to walk by faith. He wants me to walk by faith, to not be acting on what I feel or what my mind thinks, but what I know. And that is that it wasn't in what I know, and what was not just that, oh, you've been saved. It's that Jesus is Lord. There is a God. God's the Almighty. That was it. It wasn't to do with, come to the knowledge of the assurance that you've been saved. It wasn't that. It was that nothing's going to take away or put me off God. He is absolute. He is the Almighty. I'm not changed. It doesn't matter what happens. If I hear from him or if I don't hear him, he is on the throne. He's God. That's the end of the story. There is no other. It was like the way that people can say, I don't believe in God anymore, and that kind of thing. It was more him testing, saying, I'm real. I'm not going anywhere. It wasn't like, I'll never leave you. That wasn't it. It was testing me, saying, do you believe, regardless of where you're at, that I am the Almighty, I am God? And I was like going, yeah, nothing's going to change that. As soon as I kind of came to this conclusion about faith and that, it was really, I received an anointing at that point. It was just a realization, and this thing came flooding into me, and things moved in a different direction after that, very, very powerfully. But so what I'm basically saying is that, you know, when people say God doesn't speak to people, that to me, it just doesn't work, because if it wasn't God speaking to me, the kind of Christian I've been has been a Christian who has to accept suffering, in the sense of, in the sense of like living a pretty stripped back existence, in all aspects of my life, a non-prosperity type outlook, the idea that he might just want me to be a doormat for everybody and have no great plans for me. I mean, it's not being the kind of deception that you'd expect, where he's been trying to kind of put ideas in my head that I'm like the greatest and false gospel or any of that stuff. But when God has spoken to me, he's kind of radicalized me and made me more of a fundamentalist in my outlook and more biblical. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. Bless you.